In the dusty corners of Judah, where the wind still whispers ancient secrets, there was a village so small that many no longer remembered its name, Moresheth. It was the kind of place where life moved slowly, where the sun scorched the fields, the herds mingled with the workers' songs. It was in that simple and forgotten setting that Micah was born. There were no angels singing, no stars shining in the sky, just an ordinary child, in an ordinary place. But from an early age, Micah saw the world differently. While the other boys played carelessly, he just watched. And he watched too much. His silence was not shyness. It was as if he could hear something no one else could hear. The adults complained about heavy taxes, corrupt judges, hunger. He heard it all, and those words burned inside him. The boy grew up with a restless heart. Every injustice he witnessed was like a stone in his shoe. He knew something was wrong, but he didn't know what to do about it. Until one day, no one knows exactly when or how, Micah felt it. It wasn't lightning, nor a voice from heaven, it was a weight on his chest, a call he couldn't ignore. He understood that what he saw and felt wasn't just his own burden, it was God showing him what others could not see, the rich exploiting the poor, the leaders bending the laws, the prophets selling blessings. All of this was suffocating the heart of the people. And someone had to speak. Someone had to stand up. That's when Micah, still young, took his first step. Not with shouting, nor seeking fame, but with a truth in his throat he could no longer keep inside. And the city wasn't ready. What he had to say was too powerful to ignore and too dangerous to accept. One stifling dawn, when the silence felt heavier than usual, Micah woke up drenched in sweat. It wasn't a fever nor a nightmare. It was something else, a restlessness rising from within, as if someone had called his name without a human voice, an echo in his soul. He got up, left without a word, and climbed a hill, looking down at the city below, the houses still lit, laughter, music, parties. On the surface, everything seemed fine. But Micah knew what hid behind those walls: bribes, lies, families starving while their leaders lived like kings. The air smelled of injustice, and only he seemed to notice. At that moment, he understood, this was no mere indignation. It was a calling. God hadn't let him see all this for nothing. What he carried wasn't an opinion. It was a message, harsh, heavy, uncomfortable, but true. From that hill, Micah was no longer just an observer. He was a prophet. But unlike the others, he wore no fine robes, promised no victories or riches. He spoke with the hoarse voice of reality, and it sent shivers down people's spines. The people were startled, the priests sneered, who is this man from the countryside to meddle in city affairs? But he didn't back down. He spoke in markets, in squares, at the temple gates. He exposed the theft hidden in laws, the leaders who pretended to be holy while exploiting widows and orphans. Some listened, many laughed, others grew angry, but no one could ignore him, because Micah spoke as if fire lived in his mouth, and that fire began to spread, burning the masks of Jerusalem. One day, before the proud, gleaming temple at the city's heart, he spoke a prophecy that shook the ground: Zion shall be plowed like a field. The words cut the air like a blade. At first, no one understood. Then came the shock: the temple destroyed, the holy city turned to bare earth? Yes, exactly that. He wasn't there to soothe. He was warning them that God's justice was coming. Even as they called him a heretic, even as they mocked, deep down they knew, those words carried weight. Micah didn't stand out by his appearance. He was a man of the fields, dusty feet, unshaven beard, simple words. But when he spoke, silence fell like a stone. He didn't come from palace corridors, he came from the land, from the people's pain, and that's why his words were so true. He pointed without fear: the rulers are selling the nation for silver, the judges twist justice like an old rag, the prophets care more about gifts than about hearing God. He called sin by its name. Injustice was injustice. No softening. Some called him crazy. Others tried to silence him. But his voice only grew louder. He didn't seek glory. He just wanted the people to see, religion without justice was a facade, and the city, beautiful on the outside, was rotten within. Then, when no one expected it, he said something even more surprising, "But you, Bethlehem Ephrathah, so small among the towns of Judah, from you shall come the one who is to rule in Israel, Bethlehem." A forgotten village better known for its sheep than its people? But Micah did not waver. He spoke as if he had already seen it. He described a different kind of king, coming with peace, shepherding his people, bringing security not from walls or wealth, but from God himself. Even in his harshest words, he let a spark of hope slip through, a remnant of people, small but alive, whom God would still remember amid the chaos. Over time, his voice changed. Still firm, still hard, but now full of compassion. He no longer spoke as an outsider accusing. He spoke as one who felt the people's pain on his own skin. It was as if God himself spoke through him, not just in anger, but in sorrow, like one betrayed by those he loved. And Micah reminded the people, empty sacrifices don't please God. What the Lord requires is simple and impossible for hardened hearts, to do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. In the end, after all the heavy words, Micah whispered something so intimate it seemed almost a sigh, "But as for me, I will wait for the Lord. When I fall, I shall rise." He knew darkness was coming, he knew the land would be trampled, that justice would take time. But even so, he chose to wait. Not on kings, nor on men, but on God. It was a stubborn hope, scarred but steadfast. Time passed. The dust of the roads covered his steps. The Bible doesn't tell us how he died. Perhaps persecuted, perhaps in peace, perhaps alone. But his message remained. Centuries later, when asked where the Messiah would be born, the teachers of the law didn't quote Isaiah or Jeremiah, they quoted Micah, the man from the fields, who dared to say salvation would come from Bethlehem. His voice crossed generations because it wasn't built on vanity, but on truth, pain, hope, and raw faith. And today, we can't help but ask, what does his story still teach us? It teaches that courage doesn't come from status, but from conviction. That justice without compassion becomes stone, and compassion without justice is illusion. That waiting on God is not passive, it's standing firm when everything shakes, believing when everything says otherwise, and above all, it shows us that the voice of a simple man, with dusty feet, can echo through the centuries and prepare the way.